Because now it shows a tour pass page. And but it's a configuration. Quite long the features out 2 days.
Oh, 2 days. Yeah.
And it also is no longer having to like screen and to test the delays. Or we do it.
But you're recording.
Where are you going? The driver do it. Oh, okay. I don't know.
Okay.
I know it was several customers.
Or maybe we're putting this over.
Put us in your place.
Okay. That's it. I'm not going to. That's not going to show.
We could. Let's zoom into that. Stand next to it. Over there.
Yep. Action.
No, enforcement is different. Basically.
At least he doesn't have to.
Oh yeah. Oh, but I could.
It's not necessary.
It's are we sure?
Okay. I don't have an answer, but I would like to.
Yeah, we'll wait for Brian to return. Yeah, so they fixed it. Whoops, that's good. And I just in time because I ran.
WeChat.
No, the Alipay. But now that I have my other credit card number, and it takes one click to find the menu.
Yeah.
I guess I have to use a credit card. When I first put the credit card on, because I get a text that goes, did you just do this? Yes. It's what it goes through.
Who's right behind me? Okay, so moving to the volume local cache topic.
So,
Should we move the? Yes, move the
mic for this one. Could you hop over the?
Yeah.
Why doing it?
How long delay?
Because you got long legs.
How long is it? For the volume, mount to the host. Volume from set. Not set. Other backend already. It will mount.
Thanks, Simon. We love you.
Slash DB slash SDC, something like that. This is the mount point of the host machine, and then this mount point will allow to the host machine configure file, and then QML will load this XML configure file, and then this mount point can be assigned to this host machine. This is backend except self. Wait, the self is different. Self is mounted by QML directly, so there's no mount point in the host machine. but now I wanted to introduce this one and this one. This is the software cache. Why I try to introduce because if the virtual machine uses the motor volume, the latency is typically very large. For example, the typical latency is about 5 to 1,500 microsecond. But but currently the NVMe SSD, the latency is about 10 microsecond. It depends the type of SSD. Some SSD, for example, it is low latency, but it's a small capacity. Some SSD is the latency is about 16 microsecond, but the capacity is very large. For example, 50 dB, something like that. Yeah, but if the latency is something like that, for example, the capacity is about 61 to about 3 TB, like that. Yeah. So such fast SSD can be used here, but how to use it? For example, there's lots of cache software. For example, B cache, BM cache. But these two I have not tested yet. But what I tested is CAS. And this software is open source. Before this year, it is closed source, but needed to buy. It's Intel's product, but need to buy. This year it is open source. So yeah, how the cache software to cache. For example, when the host machine start up, the cache software is start, and the operator of the system need to set up the cache first. Cache means to assign this device to this software, and this software will remember this device as a cache pool, and subsequent volumes just need to tell the cache software, I want to cache this, but just to tell them, it will not build a cache for them or allocated a dedicated size for them for this amount point. It will not allocate a dedicated size. So if
sorry, I didn't understand that last part.
Yeah.
Where you were saying that you ask it to cache that disk, and you said something that for the size.
Yeah. For example, if you ask the cache software to cache for this one, it will not allocate a fixed size for these two. It just remember if there's some IO for come to this mount point, it will be cached.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the cache size is variable. The cache size is dynamically.
Yeah, the cache size is dynamically. And for example, if this mount point is very busy, there's lots of write IO, then most of the IO will be cached. But after that, for example, the cache is almost full, and the cache software find lots of the blocks previous the cache is not so hot now. It will be wiped. Yeah. So this cache pool is shared by all the virtual machines.
Are there any limits on the number of devices that can be added?
No, actually, for example, if you use cache, it's about 64K. So it's
4,000 volumes.
Yeah,
Okay.
So it should be enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because it will only cache the IO when IO come. So if the system tells the cache software, okay, try to cache for this, it will just mark this volume. It will be cached. will not allocate any key size.
Okay.
But the advantage is latency, and but the disadvantage is, for example, self is popular now, but self is used this way. There's no mount point in the host machine, so it cannot be cached. Yeah, I talked with Nova team yesterday, and they think if self volume mount to the host machine, then it is not safe for the self volume because because the data is close to the host. Yeah. But for other types of the backend, its way is firstly mount to the host. So for these types of backend, this cache can be.
Okay.
So that's iSCSI, Fiber Channel, NVMe, OS.
NVMe, yeah.
Okay.
What about NFS?
Oh,
NFS?
NFS.
No.
Oh,
That's block.
NFS I have not tested yet, but as long as there's a mount point in the host machine and this mount point is act as a block device, it should be cached. It can.
Yeah, but NFS is
Yeah, you wouldn't mount an NFS to a /dev/
Yeah.
block device.
Right.
But maybe the cache software can actually cache a file. If it can cache the file, it can cache the QCAP.
maybe. I think that NFS
We would have to look.
The NFS kind of relies on sending some file stat requests quite often, so I'm not sure how well we can.
But the thing is that this is blocked, so basically we just have one file, the QCAP. Well, not one, depends. You could have a chain, and then you will only be caching the lead. Yeah, but well, we could start with this.
Yeah.
It doesn't cover all the cases, but
And how will it work with multi-attach? So
this cannot work with multiple.
And also,
I think.
So we need to figure out that we can initialization for volume with multi-attach flag.
Yeah.
There are a lot of limitations.
and so there are two parts I need to change. One is Nova and another is Westbrook. When Nova try to attach a volume, it will call Westbrook to attach the volume, just like the volume encryption did. Yeah. In volume encryption, it is used the decrypt. Yeah, and here we use cache or be cached. But I just tested cache.
So basically, you're saying this would add a new call, like we have to decrypt and encrypt. Always read right now, if I remember correctly, it has a specific code for to build the decrypt device mapper.
Yes.
So this would add a new one.
Yes.
That is the cache, right?
Yeah. If cache for encrypted volume, then something like it is the raw volume, and this is encrypted. This is cache. Okay. Currently, if this is the raw volume and there's a simple link, but if the current way of the encrypted volume, it will just override the simple link. But Nova team said this is have some problem, and suggested to create a new simple volume and
their code right there is garbage. It's garbage because they replace a sim link they should never touch. Yeah, I hate that. So in your case, what did they say?
Yeah, in my case, for example, if this is SDC mount point, and after cached, the new name will be /dev/cache2, and this is the new simple link, and this new simple link will add to the virtual machine's XML config file.
Yep. It basically you start stacking device mappers to have your device multipath, decrypt, and cache.
You know,
And
I might be
what
being,
about volume and instance migration?
Volume,
Instance migrations. Live migrations.
live migrations.
Live migration. Okay.
It should
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, because this is the cache software, and it typically have different cache mode. For example, if the pass-through mode. Pass-through mode means that when there's a write hour come down, it will route to the cache, and also it will route to the backend storage first will route. And if we use the write back mode, write back mode means the hour will come to the cache and will return immediately. Yeah, and then at later the cache will be moved to the backend.
But
So
one question: the cache software is replying correctly to the sync when you request a sync, that synchronize your buffers, that it actually ensures that it is completed.
do you mean the sync the cache?
Yeah. So if I'm running in the system, I'm in my VM,
Yeah.
and I make a request to my system to sync the buffers so that I know that everything is there. For example, if I want to VS or whatever,
will it respond to that and flush
yeah,
the cache down
exactly.
to the back end?
that because we need that.
The virtual machine, the virtual machine, I don't know the volume is cached or not. If it run sync, then the data will come to here if the cache mode is rolled back. If the cache mode is rolled through, then when it runs sync, the data will come here and here.
You've got to. If there's a sync running the VM, it's got to flush that cache.
That's
To
what I'm
both.
asking.
It has to do
It
that.
should be
Otherwise, it's not a true sync.
Regardless of the mode.
Yeah, it shouldn't make any difference what the mode is. It has to flush the cache.
We need to look into it because that's definitely something
critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it only work with VertIO device? I mean, how does it? Okay, sorry. How is this thing activated? I mean, if the administrator or the driver or volume type decides to prefer not to cache, where would that happen? Yes,
Yeah, there needs to be an override so you don't use the cache.
Yeah, I mean,
Even if the cache is available and you've got that back-end NVMe DAS device, you might not want to use it.
Oh, we can probably add in the initialize connection. Maybe we can return data to say never cache. This volume should never be cached.
Yeah.
What is the reason? Out of curiosity, what use cases?
Well, you might have a
my idea
really fast back end. It doesn't
Exactly.
need a cache. Like
Exactly.
ours doesn't need a cache.
Okay.
Or you have
Because-
a volume that you want to use multi-attach.
Yeah.
Well, that would be different because then we will have to do the same thing. Nobody's already detecting that. If it's multi-touch, I think, to disable the cache.
Will that, as long as that disables this count.
Yeah, we would also need to do it.
And I mean, the thing is you're limited by the size of that internal NVMe drive. If you've got a drive on the VM that is bigger than that,
Yeah.
you're going to have to say, do not cache this because it's potentially going to wipe out everybody's cache.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But I think we just have to make sure we can start taking notes on what we need to make sure, the attach that we
I mean,
set.
you've even got NVMe over Fabric here listed as an external backend storage. Just by having that, you're negating the reason for having the cache software in the first place, because it is just so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what's the point of having a cache software if that's NVMe's your connectivity level?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Yes, the NVMe over Fabric, the real latency is about I tested.
Yeah. But it's still, I mean, to be honest, that sort of latency is completely negated by all of the software layers you're adding in. So So I think you're sort of arguing a point about providing a piece of capability that OpenStack itself can't actually take advantage of because OpenStack's got so many layers and its inherent latency is so high anyway.
yeah, but we can just add the feature.
If you
to
add it
be
as
able-
something that is
yeah.
like, it needs to be, and I actually think you should probably have that off by default.
Yeah. It
Only
should be.
turn on this cache if you very, very specifically want it.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to confirm that sync works, that in multi-attach we don't enable it, and
Default is off.
Default is off. Yep.
Actually, I think that if that VertIO thing there is correct, then I believe things should work, because I think that QEMU VertIO is kind of like specific interface with barriers. So if barriers work, if the cache respect barriers, then it could work.
Yeah, no, I think it should, but it's the kind of thing we want to be sure,
exactly.
because if someone is QSing and it's not happening,
It's one thing to send down the sync, it's another thing to make sure that it actually
It's
Exactly.
what it's supposed to do, yeah.
yeah.
I'm not clear what do we need to change in Cinder to take advantage of this, other than these extra config options to make sure we can configure things the way we want it. I'm trying to understand how it fits in. So yeah, this works for Intel's caching software. I don't want to be implementing any functionality that is only for Intel.
Proprietary.
We should have the
cache. But I have not tested it yet. I have just tried in the host machine, but I have not integrated cache to the whole system. Cache. And Adkani suggested the DM cache. Yeah, DM cache I have not tested yet.
yeah. I agree.
We need to try all.
It should support multiple, not only proprietary software. There should be a way for us to test it with open source.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because we will want to test this.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing is,
Especially with all
this
these
is
caveats.
open test now. So the code is also open.
It's open. Okay.
Yeah, it's open. It's open test.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh,
So
Okay.
is it free?
It's free. Yes.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Yeah,
Because I thought you said it was pay at the beginning.
we still want it to work with other
Yes.
caching systems.
Yeah, I will try to paste the test steps, test script to
Yeah.
how to test it.
I mean, it's open cache, but is the standard open? That's the thing. Is any new cache that comes along, is it going to use the same standard as open cache?
Well, probably not.
This is the issue, isn't it?
Well, no, we can just support multiple.
Yeah.
Do we need caching drivers?
Probably. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was afraid
That
of.
sounds
Yeah.
Okay.
sounds painful.
And one thing I need to mention here is any software, any SSD can be used caching, not only Intel's SSD. Something SSD, any SSD can be used here.
Yeah.
So the software is open source, and this is
Yeah.
It's just,
It would be
maybe it's because
useless,
I work
yeah.
for a company that only works with SSDs on the back end. This whole thing seems to be just redundant to me.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
and
there are
I-
use cases even.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I can
learned
see even
my-
without storage, I can see use cases like that. But, yeah.
I learned my experiment. And, if we choose this SSD, and this SSD has the latency 10 microseconds, and the final volume latency is about 55 microseconds. This is the final latency. Yeah. But
After layering.
after well caching. Yeah. If the backend is
I just don't. I understand what you're trying to achieve. I just feel that those numbers you're talking about are irrelevant by the time you get up to the
No,
VM.
this is the VM.
That's
latency.
VM's that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
what he's saying.
yeah, this is a test.
This is
test
the-
I can't see Queen
Yeah, this
doing
is test
that.
use the
To be
FRO.
honest.
That's where he's saying with that.
Yeah, so this is the final.
That's the final one.
Yeah,
Okay.
final latency.
That would make sense. That
Yeah.
That
you
would,
may want to
okay,
use
that
it.
would make sense.
Yes.
Yeah, and this one beat RDMA. Because RDMA needs
Hell of a
to
hefty VM.
RDMA is very fast. If the two computer is connected directly by RDMA, there's no switch in the middle. The latency is about 20. Yeah, but there's a switch in the link, so the latency will be right. Because here is PCIe.
Yeah.
PCIe.
I have one question. What is in your head? How does the interface look like? Is this going to be something that it's enabled for all volumes that Nova Touch you can request use cache if it exists, or how? Because you may want you're running a lot of different VMs here, and maybe you just want this for the IO intensive ones, and there are some that you don't care if they don't go through cache.
Currently,
Maybe a hybrid.
Yeah, if those VMs are like linked GPUs or something to do machine learning, you do want that.
Yeah, but
you don't want every other VM on the compute node to be doing
exactly. So it should.
Currently, I just simply add a configuration in Nova's compute file.
So Nova will do it for everyone. For everybody.
But it needs to be flavor based.
Yeah.
It is.
I think so.
Enable or disable.
Yeah, but I think Nova should have enable or disable for Nova, and then as a flavor, say this VM will use, or either as a flavor or as a disk, because you may even have multiple disks.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one you don't want to be fast on the other.
Yeah, you don't want your boot drive essentially doing that. You just want your data drive.
Exactly. So it should be something that is added to the attach call. The new micro version that they say this one we want it, and by default, the default in there I suppose should be disabled. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. But so this could be just changes in OS break, right? Nothing in Cinder.
Yeah, only in OS break. But if as you said, we need to add some flag in flavor. So it means
probably not in flavor in the attach. I think it's better in the attach, because flavor would mean that all the volumes that are, if you enable cache, you would enable it in all the volumes, but maybe you don't want it in all the volumes. You just want in the data. No,
maybe a volume type.
It sounds like a volume type.
You have your VM,
QoS
has
volume.
Yeah.
In this case,
and volume type.
Yes.
Extra spec, not JS, extra specs.
Yes.
VM.
Volume times, maybe.
It
We
has
also need
the
to
boot,
that's a good place we can.
and it has
data.
data.
Yes.
Yes.
This one,
yeah.
You're doing a lot of intensive operations, so you want it cache. And this one, not. So if it's flavor, it is the whole VM and all the disk. You'd want to be able to select this one cache, this one not.
But if this one is one volume and this one is another volume?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so you don't want all the volumes to come from here just because you have enabled it.
Okay.
Because let's say this is the good stuff, and maybe in some cases, for some VMs, you say, nah, just speed is not that important, and I don't want this IO messing up my cache for the others. So it should be a Nova Touch field parameter.
So will the final flag come to the volume property?
Nope.
I think in volume types.
In volume types,
It's volume type with an X.
we could add it there.
Yes.
They could.
And
That would be a better way of doing it.
Yeah. Like,
But Nova still has to have the net.
I see the encrypt volumes. A volume is encrypted or not. The flag is received in
Yes.
volume property. Yeah. So when Nova tries to attach a volume, the OS breaker the Nova will check if this volume will be encrypted or not. If it's encrypted, then it will call OS breaker.
Yeah.
So we may need.
should we take care about caching on backends? If backend cache is enabled, should we use this one too or not? Will it work together?
Yeah, again, this is where you're getting into the realms of, you're talking newest technology here, which is why you're doing this. But, I'm standing here as a pure person. We have that sort of cache already built
Yeah,
into our
Exactly.
arrays
But that's why you make it
to reduce
by
this latency.
default disabled, like you were asking,
Yes.
disabled, and you make it per volume
Yes.
dependent. So the vendor would tell the customer,
Use this or
don't
don't
use
use
it,
this.
never use cache for my volumes.
Exactly.
You will see very little improvement. You can use
We
it for
would test it, and then we would turn around and say,
Okay,
these are the
but
numbers.
it's not worth it.
Exactly.
it's clear from vendor's point of view, but from Cinder point of view, it would be a low or not such configuration.
I don't
Somehow.
think that should make any difference because the Cinder, to be honest, wouldn't know about what the back end is doing from a caching perspective.
Yes.
So it makes no difference to this.
Okay.
That would just be a vendor's recommendation.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
we already cache, so
Yeah.
don't waste your internal cache
On our disk.
on our disks.
Okay.
Or if you do, you're not really going to gain much, but it's up to you. You can do it,
Exactly.
and it would be supported,
Yep.
but we wouldn't recommend it.
Mhm.
That would be a release note for that particular back-end driver.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's good to have storage when there's these conversations.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what we're here for.
So,
Add a bit of reality sometimes.
sounds good. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
What do you have?
Make something clear. When you have a raw device, the FSDC for instance, and you enable cache on it, you create a new device and you give that to QMO, right? Okay. So something that is probably more on the Nova side, but some volume drivers in Nova have this option to let Nova tell QMO to use native I/O, direct I/O.
Yeah.
Maybe Nova should consider maybe Nova should think about whether to enable direct I/O or not.
And just pass through the VirtIO.
Because it's a different device, it's a different.
Yeah.
But that would be the same case as RBD. If you are not going through the host, you cannot take advantage of the cache.
It is going through the host. I mean, at least in our case, we expose a block device on the host.
Okay.
So if this should somehow work for all block devices also.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, the question of disabling it per volume aside, we do expose a classic block device. Anything that works with a block device works with ours.
Uh-huh.
So we tell QMO to use native I/O on our devices. It can not use it, or it can. All I'm saying is that's just one more thing to consider for Nova, whether to figure that into the decision whether to pass the volume driver's request to use direct I/O when using cache or not.
Okay.
Right now, I can't say whether it is right to or not. I mean, it depends on how the cache works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're thinking right now, as a vendor, your recommendation is do it one way, but if in a system they have cache, your recommendation may change.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something like
But
that.
would you need something in noise break or Cinder or somewhere for that recommendation, or you would just tell your customers after testing, if you have cache, configure it some other different way? Because I think it would be just a documentation matter, right?
That's a good question. I mean, what you said earlier about passing some information through initialized Lightning connection, that would be, the most configurable way. What you're asking now is whether we need it at all.
But in your case, which
I'm
you
not-
may
I'm
change
not
the
sure.
way you recommend connecting.
Yeah. I don't know right now. I mean, maybe we have to look at it.
Okay.
We have to test.
So, do you have a patch upstream for this?
Yeah, I have a spec and
Okay. Okay. I like it.
Yeah, and our customer already pulled the cache, but because the US and China trade war and we cannot serve them anymore. Yeah, so I don't know the result.
I didn't understand. Sorry. What?
So because of the policy, US China trade war. So that company is in the blacklist. So we cannot cooperate with them anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe half a year later or some time, if this company is removed from the blacklist, then we can
Find out what happened.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay,
But we have already tested. But we have already tell them where is the patch.
okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, I've seen the spec has already got some reviews.
Is it? Can you put the spec number up on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
make sure we add it to the.
Etherpad.
I think it was on the Etherpad, but let's double check.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then also the.
wait, there's.
I think there was a.
might have their cache.
Yeah.
And this is an internal cache.
A local, not for Cinder. This is a local to the node. So in the compute node, you have your VM running, and instead of going directly to the remote disk, if you have a very data-intensive operation that you run in there, data mining or whatever, you may want to have faster. So what you do is you add a cache in the middle with a very fast disk. And
So the overall point of this is to
yes, that's the whole point.
yeah. So the operators that are using that VM should have the choice to
Exactly.
which cache they want to use, the backend specific or
Well, that comes from the recommendation of the vendor. If the vendor tests the cache system with their specific storage, and they say, for my array, these are the gains. There are minimum, you probably don't want to use. But other vendors may say, if you have it, use it. It's fine. So it will be configurable per volume.
Yeah.
So that when Nova touches, you can say, oh, this volume, I have cache configured. In this volume says that it can use cache. Then I'll use it. Because you may have volumes that you want to read fast and write fast, and other volumes in the same VM that you don't mind. Either way, fast, slow, I don't care. I'm just storing logs in there, my logs. But if both were to use the cache, one could be reducing the performance of the other one because they're in the cache and everything.
might be more important than
Exactly.
I know, yeah, you're going to be, it's just a careful of them negating each other.
Yeah.
That cache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's up to. So as far as we're concerned on our side, this ability that could happen on the side where you can actually.
Yeah, so the rules, the extra spec would be passed up to Nova, then Nova would actually do the implementation. So as far as we're concerned, it's just adding an extra.
Similar to how you were saying, encryption.
Yeah.
Oh, it's encrypted. Let me call the decrypt.
Yeah, but just the extra spec needs to have that tie-in to make sure you can't have multi-attached equals true at the same time.
Which I still think is the wrong approach. We have to think of decrypt. It should be always break attached to it. It's encrypted. Here to happen, we can do it.
You see, I think the whole encryption thing is going to change as well, because when you start bringing key MIPS into this sort of stuff as well, because I know that we're going to stop. I'm going to have to do something in our driver to do, because we do KMIP support, and you start tying into like Tails and someone like that, or these third-party encryption tools. You want to be able to encrypt on the host, but also pass that encryption back to the backend array, which means Cinder needs to understand what's going on and needs to be able to pass that key. So that's going to change in a bit. That's going to be a major change that's going to come at some point. Right. And I don't even know where the hell that's going to come from, but
it's coming.
It's going to have to come.
All right.
Because you start working on, encryption today. It's all done host side, which is okay, but if you've got a back-end array that already encrypts, there's no point encrypting on the host side because you can't get anything. You can't encrypt encryption.
Yep. Well, it doesn't make any sense if you
so
have
what
a
you have to
secure
do,
transmission.
Yeah. So
if you don't, it makes sense.
So it's like yes. And so that whole key translation and key passing between external key managers and backends, that's going to start coming. And backends are starting to support that. Ours is already starting to support it. So other vendors are going to do it as well.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a fairly major thing in Cinder, I think, going forward.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but it will.
Mm-hmm. Good.
So we're just going to get one screen.
Shall I jump over or not?
Stay here.
No, you don't want to do that.
It feels uncomfortable.
Too much signing for. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Oh, Simon.
The summary looks good.
That look good?
Yeah,
Okay.
you got it.
Of course I did.
Okay. Mutable options. Okay, you're up. Mutable options.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Just in time. So, as it's written on the Etherpad, we have a customer who, from time to time, changes their backend password, and they want to just change it on the cinderconf file and it gets working instead of having to restart Cinder volume service. So it was a topic that Aaron, God rest his name, but it's so.
Wait,
but
Erlon died? Just his name.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So he just created a spec. I think it was a copy paste of another pad. But guys wrote some notes already. So since that it's already being implemented in Oslo config.
Yeah, so Oslo config is supposed to give you the ability to reload configs without restart starting.
But the current code in Cinder is using the restart.
Well, no, there was a bug in Oslo service that the signal that's supposed to tell it to reread the configs actually ended up killing the service.
No, but I'm talking about the two patches that are mentioned in the here. In the Etherpad, there are two patches. Yep, it says restart method equal mutable. So does that mean?
Yeah, that's what tells it on that signal. Don't actually restart, just mutate configs.
Okay.
According to Oslo.
Okay, that's happening in the service class, so it should be all services.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually had, we did have a follow-on to this that we never followed up on, is that we need to determine what other config options can be mutated, because there's some that you can't, that don't make sense. But there potentially are other config options that can be changed while services are running. I don't think driver credentials really is a good.
How would you change the credentials and still keep? How would you change the credentials? Because if you change the credential in the backend, then all your services can no longer, they stop working.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that?
Without downtime.
Without downtime.
Yeah.
Do you have two credentials, switch, and then remove the old one?
This is one option.
Okay.
It feels like there's a lot of manual risk involved in this. You're changing passwords on back-end arrays, and then going in. There's a time lapse between, no matter how fast you are, even if you're using something like Ansible to change it like that, there is a delay, and you are going to risk what I call Cinder failing and crashing. Who knows what the impact of that is?
Well, I think the idea here would be you have the old one, it's working, you have the new one, it's still working because the old one has not been removed, you're working, you make the mutable, and you tell internally to change your client, and you make it use the new one, and now that it's make all calls because you use the same client. And
that's a backend specific.
Yeah.
So you're saying that your backends are going to have two viable passwords. You have good luck with security people because they're going to freak out when you tell them that.
Well, not for the same user. They probably have.
No, I'm the same user because they use username.
Yeah, but you change the user, you change the password.
That's not.
You change both. You change the credentials as a whole. Yeah. Okay.
That's me. I suspect, having worked in the financial industry, that banking security people will get very, very upset about that because what you're doing is you're adding an additional or enabling an additional privileged user on a back-end array. They get upset by having one, so you start adding another one, even if it's only for a short period of time. The security audit people are going to get freaky with you. So I'm just warning you that that might not be a good move to be exposing to some organizations.
And this is a control plane issue, not data plane. So why is it an issue for them to stop the service, change the credentials, and then?
Because Cinder volume is in the data plane, the data path as well.
Only LDM.
What do you mean? No. When you create volume from image.
Well, yeah.
Generic
so you can't do those management options in that little window, but your volumes are still going to be accessible.
Yeah, but I mean, if you are doing create volume from image.
Yeah. You just can't do that in the window that you're changing credentials.
Yeah, I was talking with the customer, and they have a problem with that. With
Really?
bringing down the service and even if you, I've had people ask me how can I update without downtime the same one, like so it's people don't want to bring down the service. Exactly. Yeah, they are doing 1 terabyte create volume from image. It's going to take a while. And when you make the request to bring the service down, you close RabbitMQ, you receive no new requests, and you have to wait until they create volume. Yeah.
I thought you were going to do that. Well, they're using pure storage.
I was being generic.
So what do we currently have in Cinder in terms of, do we have any mutatable?
Nope.
Not even the logs?
Nope, we enabled it. We enabled that setting, and we inherit the log debug flag because that comes with Oswald log.
Okay.
But as far as I know, we've never set any Cinder config options.
Okay.
That was the follow-up work that we never did.
Mm-hmm.
So you're opening up by setting usable options. You're opening up the list of options in config file that will just get longer and longer and longer because potentially every vendor's backend has a slightly different spelling or type or name or username, password, or uname, PWD,
no, but the thing is that
something. And then so that list of config items that can be usable just starts to grow.
The problem is not the driver-specific config options, but those are easy because they are just used by one driver. The problem are the generics that are being used by a bunch of them.
Like someone big.
Yeah, those are the problematic ones that they would need to, in their driver, override it with saying mine is mutable. Those are the problematic ones.
See, I don't think something like Sun IP should be mutable because that is fixed. The back end, you're not going to change the IP address of the back end.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, if I don't remember, but if we have a username which is global to all the drivers, and we want to make it mutable for your storage, but most others don't want it to be mutable, we have a problem because the name is generic for everyone. And some will be mutable, some will not. So I don't know if we can just add it again in the driver. So we define it generic.
I think it blows up if you do that.
But even if we could, listing the option would be terrible.
Yeah.
Because you would say, this is not mutable except for this. Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. That one is a complicated one because most other drivers will not want that to be mutable. So,
Yeah, really for anything, the reason why config options are defaulted to not be mutable is in most cases you need to make sure that wherever that config option is being used, that it's read from config and not loaded and set inside of a driver or inside of whatever class and not read. So
currently, how does the drivers know that the config options have, we don't have it implemented, right? Any feature to let them know config has changed?
yeah, there's no notification mechanism. It would just be whatever we enable to be mutable. We need to make sure any use of that config option is read from Oslo config every time it's used.
Okay, so we would, for any mutable option, we want to add that it's driver dependent. We would need to add hook a method to let it know, hey, this has changed.
If that driver caches that information once it starts up, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Like credentials.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's part. Okay. Yeah. The problem is your specific case. That's the problem. The user password. Or are you what config option are you using for the credentials? What's the name?
Key name?
What?
It's NetApp_password.
Oh, then it's fine. Because it's not shared with others. It's not shared.
Or if they are.
But we want that to go away, right? Because we've been pushing back on everyone that we shouldn't have NetApp_password.
Yeah, but if they want it to be mutable, that is the only reason for me to have it, right? Ooh.
You're not changing, you're only doing NetApp_password, that's what you're talking about.
In username.
And username as well, has to be their username
There's
as well.
another field called NetApp_username.
Okay.
This pair should be changed.
I just feel that there's to me this feels like this is a really big customer making NetApp do something that really doesn't need to be done.
Let me put it this way: if we had active, you would not need to this because you could bring one down.
Yes.
Everything keeps working. Change it, bring it back up.
Yes.
Bring another one. So active resolves these problems as well.
Yeah. So it would be better to get active working than to waste time doing this.
Probably. But I don't know how long would it take one and the other for you. But active resolves this problem.
Yeah. Much safer answer than trying to change credentials while things are running.
Because it does feel a bit like a proprietary change.
And it feels something like you were saying that we want to remove the driver specific config options. So what was the ask here to see if we can implement it, if what are our thoughts, pick it back up?
Yeah. So Aaron did not left us so many information about this topic. So I was about to ask if it was possible to make only driver specific changes, or it would be necessary some car changes as well.
Well, this would need core change at least, because the driver does not get notified of this change. So the volume manager gets the signal and it knows, oh, the config have changed, but it never calls the driver. Yeah, there's no. So that would need to be added in any case for any driver specific feature. That would need to be added. And the different topic is that since I'm reading the room right, most people prefer that you do this specific use case with active-active. That, I think that is what most people would prefer.
That probably buys you too.
Yeah. Can we get more support doing it?
I think the only problem is that currently we don't support active-active. We have plans to do that, at least for SolidFire now, but for OnTap we know that.
No, not active-active on the back end.
Sorry?
Not active-active on the back end.
Yeah, in Cinder volume.
Yeah, in Cinder volume, but they're talking about physical back end.
No, he's talking about the driver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, yes, about the driver. And for OnTap, we, we don't know if when we will be able to start developing we start checking the logs, everything we need to be able to have the active working. So, if it was like a or and it's simple and reliable, we could just make it, and we could just have enough time to make active as we don't have anything to test it.
Or change.
No, the core change is going to be necessary anyway. The core change is going to be necessary because there are going to be features in the drivers that are actually going to need this.
Right.
That is going to happen sooner or later. We're going to have a driver configuration option that we all agree. Yes, this makes absolutely sense, and we will need that core feature. So it's not something that is specific for this one.
Or like I was saying, that the drivers, any use of that big option needs to be fed every time it's used. Then we don't need a notification mechanism.
Yeah. So we're going to be needing that anyway. So now it's a matter of, do we allow them? Do we think it's okay for them to do this right now until they get to active, or do we think? Because it's true that active is a lot more effort than just adding this. That's significant effort.
We can talk to our customer and check how urgent is this need. If they are able to wait supporting active instead of implementing the mutable option, and if they are able to wait for the active,
we would prefer it.
Yeah,
I think.
And also other customers will be happy if we don't make this option mutable at all.
Yeah. Some customers will not be.
Yeah, we can't impact other customers just
because of
them.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, like he was saying with financial services companies, you may have customers that are very unhappy if you do that.
I mean, I know financial services companies are in general freaked out by the single configuration file anyway, because it has free text in it for using and password.
Yeah, but Oslo now has some features.
Yes, but historically, and if you go, and not everybody's using the latest version.
Sure.
So yes, when you get there, that's fine. But today, they freak out like that and stuff anyway. So you start doing multiples and I don't think the customer necessarily understands the implications of what they're asking, even with their own internal organisation. That would be my point of view as an ex-customer.
So we're asking them to look at active-active.
Instead,
Are we ready for them to do active-active?
well, they are going to start working in SolidFire
Okay.
right now. They
Yeah,
are
but-
already looking at it, at the code to start doing it. So it will be a good starting point for them to figure out how hard it is in one of the drivers before they jump into the other one.
But are there core changes that need for you?
For active-active,
Yeah.
finish the core changes. I don't know how much of the stuff has been broken since I left it working. No, the multi-attach broke it in a couple of places. We fixed it. Because there are, but
Yeah, the only thing it's been waiting for is a backend driver to actually backend.
well,
I just wanted to
RBD
make sure
has
that
it
was the
enabled,
case.
but RBD is easy.
Yeah.
We don't export volumes, we don't map them, so it's the easy one to do.
Okay.
And we are going, I took yesterday, I was talking with them about active-active, and I took a couple of action items to make sure that it's easier for people to actually deploy something with active-active, even if it fails, because their driver has limitation, at least to be able to have something to start working.
Or will you be able to help them if they run into HA issues?
Yeah, within my limitations.
You are unlimited.
I wish.
You need a cache.
Go get the card. Sounds like some sort of deal.
Yeah, tu and G got Google model.
Okay, so you can talk to your manager, see how that, see if you can make a good sell for active-active.
Yeah.
And
And you would, you'd be bringing value add to the community too.
So yeah, I will talk to them and
then come back and
And
we can see, but I think it's a much better,
one more point against this.
it's just a timing
feature,
issue, right?
Against
Yeah.
investing a lot of resources for this feature, mutable option. A lot of new deployments are done in containers, and we don't need mutable options containers.
Oh, you do. You do. If you don't have it active to do for the same reason. How long does it take to bring down a volume service if it's doing pre-create volume from image of 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte volumes? And you cannot spin up another one because it will detect that there are volumes created and it will set them to error.
Technically, we can happen.
If you change the
We
cinder
do it for
code, you
years,
can.
and it works pretty good. Without export.
The only way I can think of this works without breaking things is with containers or whatever you want to deploy it. If you fake that you have an active deployment where both of the old one has cluster, to run the new one, you change the host value.
Yes.
But that's a hack.
Yes, I know.
I cannot go to a customer and tell them to do that.
I can.
Yeah, but because I can.
And he'll give him an invoice for it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, let me put it this way. If I were running my own cloud, I could do 100 things because I know the code and I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll do this, it works, right? Let's move on. But if I have a customer and not go, I can go and tell them, we're going to do this weird thing. It works, as long as I'm here to check that everything works.
Because Active is implemented for a lot of drivers, and customers want to have some kind of HA. Not real Active, but some kind of HA. And this hacker way with change first name to the same value for each single volume service. This solution works pretty good.
Wait, are you changing the host name to a safe?
Yes.
Is that not the same as,
name?
What?
isn't that the same as what you back in first?
Yeah. You should never do that. because when the new one starts up, it breaks everything that is ongoing, unless you go to a Cinder code and remove that part, which is what it was. eBay that was doing it.
You have to break any code.
No, what you would do is you go into the Cinder code, you remove that part of the code, which is what eBay did, like, I don't know, 4 years ago. Yes, you can make it, but you're not only it's a hack, you're actually modifying the Cinder code.
No. We are just not for customers that spin up new Cinder volume process could lead to some volumes into the error state. And you could just recreate volumes. It's okay.
Well, if it is,
it's the price of HA for the current implementation for the most drivers.
Okay, if they consider that acceptable, then
it's risky.
It's risky, you know, but
okay.
For example, customers want 35 with HA. There's no other way to do it.
Yeah. If they are willing to accept that, then it's fine.
The other way is to push the back-end vendors to test and enable active-active.
So I would say, yep. Okay. But going back to what you said, that mutable with containers is not that relevant, I still insist because we don't want people doing that because not everybody has your expertise in-house. Yeah. So not everybody. So we want them to do the right way. That is why mutable options are still relevant. But, yeah.
Right, so we got 8 minutes.
Do we start this or do we?
No, that's like either of those topics.
I think we've got plenty of time this afternoon.
All right, let's slide those over. Okay, so as far as this discussion goes, then we don't. Seems like it would be nice to have immutable big where it gets propagated, where change gets propagated to drivers. But if we do the active-active, we don't.
Well, no, it is different. I think it's different because there may be some driver configuration options which you really want to do, you can do quickly, because mutable options are going to be a lot faster than bringing one service down, up, not down, up, down, up. If you had 3, even in active-active, it takes a while to do the process. With mutable, it's just change, done.
So I guess what I'm saying is.
We still want the propagation to a driver.
But it's not something that we to accomplish anything we're trying to do right now.
Exactly, no.
Right.
But if we add it, the first one that adds a mutable option in a driver will need it.
Right.
We can leave it the job. We should probably just document it somewhere, like this is needed. So next time somebody wants to do it, they know, okay, I want a mutable option. What do I have to do? You have to add a method in here, So just a little in the developer's guide or something like that in the docs, saying it is supported, but not for drivers. If you want it, you need to do this, or this would be necessary.
For example. That would be.
Yes, that would actually, but since if you look at the next topic.
Exactly, that's what I was just thinking about.
But yours would be the global. Yes. Yeah. The global one would work that way, yeah. Yes, it depends on what it is. Let's say
turning on or changing the
maybe a feature that you have disabled and you upgrade your storage and now you have it. You just want to say now you can do this. That kind of thing.
Well, that would be actually like turning on
authentication.
That could be
That could be a useful one.
Yeah.
But then it's the same parameter. Everybody uses the same
Yes. Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
So,
But you still need to tell the driver.
yes,
because in some
you
cases,
need to flag the
Yeah.
drive to,
Yeah.
to reload.
yes. In that case, we would need it. Actually, that's a very good example. The replication. You were not doing it as you want to.
Yeah.
So yes, enable. This is according to, I don't know who's writing, but it's saying that the way it is supposed to work is, yeah, it's immutable, it's always needs to be read. Every time you use
That's
it.
what I was trying to say
Yeah, but-
before, is that as long as every time it's used, you read it
Yeah,
from.
but it may be too expensive to do it that way.
Yeah, so
Depending on what you're doing.
load everything into memory. Everyone read everything out of memory.
Yeah, but the thing
It
is,
shouldn't be too expensive to read.
no,
If you
it's
like-
not the read. You don't know what they are doing with that configuration option.
Ah.
Maybe they are creating an instance of some object that does a lot of stuff. You don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying if unless they have that set property internally to their driver or doing some action, mutable config options in most cases should just be a matter of making
Yes.
sure that it's
Sounds like an issue with drivers because it should be pretty safe to reload config for drivers. If I know that a lot of drivers in Cinder which just spin up some session object doing init, but doesn't seem like the correct solution.
I think, in my opinion, considering we haven't been able, after, I know, 6 years, we haven't been able to make all drivers stop accessing the database.
Yes.
We have to be realistic and know that you cannot just go and say, oh, change the way you create your session, change the way you do.
Do we still have drivers that are accessing?
Oh, yeah. And that's a fun point with Cinderlib.
Okay, if we can't push anything to vendors, okay.
Yeah, you can, but
I don't understand why we have to introduce something, some messy architecture in Cinder just because vendors can.
this is not a major, this is a call that most of the drivers will ignore.
Okay, we'll find bug for drivers. If vendors don't want to fix bugs, okay, their issue. It's not the Cinder's issue.
By the way,
I'm ready to help vendors to fix this issue with initialization, but I don't have a hardware. I can only publish a patch to get it and ask the AI to test it. But it's absolutely doable. We're pretty good third-party CI. We don't merge any patches to drive without CIs. It'd be easy for us as community to go to the drivers and fix the config usage. If it fails, if CI fails, you can file a bug and ask for the help.
right now we are not going to make any changes. We're talking if somebody gave a reasonable use case where they need to be notified, this is what they will need to do. But
Yes,
it is
but
an hypothetical
what
case.
I'm saying is that the notification, such kind of notification, means that we've got a better architecture in drivers. What I'm saying is that such kind of notifications for drivers means that the architecture is better. That's my opinion.
But I mean, even if the driver does something heavyweight with the option, like create a session or something like that, isn't it possible for the driver writer to cache the values of the options with which it was created and just check them every time? I mean, I am a lazy driver writer, so I would prefer not to do that, obviously. But I mean, we don't need to add notification. That is dirty. To me, if a driver needs to add a thread to check, we already propagate.
Well, not a
we
thread,
already
just whenever a call is being made, is the current config option value the same as what I stored the original config option value was? It's not, okay, I know I need to reinitialize my session.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways around it, yeah.
I think there's actually a risk in there by reinitializing the session or rereading the configuration file. There is a potential risk because you're changing one particular parameter. What happens if someone else has changed parameter and you didn't know about it?
No,
that could break everything.
No, because you don't really reload. You already have it in memory.
You're just checking.
You check what you have in memory.
You're reloading the whole file.
Yeah, you don't reload. You just check. That could be something we could recommend that in the documentation instead of the other option.
How's it? So you're saying that when
it changes in memory. It just the mutable. They change in memory when they receive the signal. So they have the right value always in memory.
Right, but what happens if someone else has changed something as well?
No, that is why Oslo config knows which one needs to reload. The other ones don't get reloaded, so you don't get what you cannot change it.
Does anyone recommend this pattern to check?
We would have to confirm if that actually works. Because I don't know if everybody remembers that we have a weird thing because Oslo config does not support the dynamic naming we use for the sections. So what we do is we load it and then we pass it to a driver as its own configuration. So when Oslo, the driver mutable options probably don't work in Cinder for driver specific stuff. Because we do that before.
Just in the default standard.
Maybe it's time to fix Oslo.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
We had Ben over here earlier.
I think his response would be contributions welcome.
Right. So that may be the place to do that. Okay, so no matter which way you go, there's going to be a lot of work.
But yeah, active is the better long-term, safer route.
And the one that adds more value to the driver itself.
There's other benefits of going active.
Active really help in all cases. For example, if we change password on the backend, we need to restart or change mutable password options on all the volume services because they won't be available. They will have old password.
Yeah. No, that's what we said. You have two at the time. You make a change.
You have to have two usernames and two passwords.
Best case will.
Yeah, that is the case they were talking about.
An account migration, not an account modification.
Yes.
Yeah.
You suppose such option is awesome. But I'm not sure exactly.
We have agreed.
Yeah.
For all storages.
Sorry, you have to try to convince managers and customers to wait a little bit more.
Yeah. If you're consumers, I'll be glad when you have it enabled.
Lunch?
Yep.
The recording has ended.
Yeah, it doesn't say so.